The phone rang at 2:13 a.m., slicing through the kind of silence that only hospitals and nightmares know how to hold. A voice on the other end trembled, thin as cracked glass. "Sir, you need to come. It's your daughter." For a moment I couldn't feel my hands, couldn't feel the room around me, only the cold slide of dread filling my lungs. I don't remember grabbing the keys, I don't remember the drive, just the fluorescent lights of the ER hallway humming overhead like they were ashamed to witness who'd just walked through their kingdom. When I saw her on that hospital cot, bruised, shaking, clinging to consciousness, something inside me stopped. The part of me that laughed, the part of me that forgave, the part of me that believed the system worked. She whispered my name like it hurt. "Dad." Her fingers reached for mine, weak but desperate. "I didn't go with him," she breathed. "I said no. He got angry. It was him, the billionaire's son." My pulse went cold, the kind of cold that rewrites a man. I brushed the hair from her face, careful not to touch the swelling along her jaw. "Who else was there?" I asked. "He had people," she whispered. "They watched." Her eyes glistened with humiliation, more painful than any bruise. "He said, his father owns this city." As if on cue, my phone buzzed. A message. From a number I didn't recognize, but instantly understood. She refused to spend a night with me. "My dad owns this city. You can't touch me." He was right. I couldn't. Not in the world above ground. But there are older worlds, quieter worlds, worlds that don't care who owns what. And I knew exactly who lived in one of them. People talk about helplessness like it's a soft emotion, like it's tears and trembling hands. But real helplessness is a blade pressed behind your ribs. It forces you to breathe slowly, think sharply, act deliberately. I stayed with her until she slept, exhaustion pulling her under. Every inhale she took sounded like a struggle. Every exhale sounded like a plea. I promised her I'd be calm. I promised her I'd be smart. I lied. Because as I stepped out into the parking lot, the city lights felt cruel, like they knew exactly who they protected. I leaned against my car, pulled out the one number I swore I'd never use, not unless blood demanded it. A man known only inside my family, a shadow most people assumed had died decades ago. A ghost the newspapers never could catch, her uncle. When he answered, the line crackled with old European silence. I didn't offer details, didn't tell him names, didn't tell him what the boy had done. I said 2 words: family business. There was a beat, a heavy inhale, like he was waking something inside himself he'd buried long ago. "I'm on my way," he said, nothing more. The line went dead, and the countdown to justice began. He arrived 40 hours later. No fanfare, no greetings, just a man in a gray coat stepping out of a black sedan at dusk, the last light of day catching in the deep lines carved across his face. Age had taken its toll, but not his presence. He carried silence the way others carried weapons, heavy, sharp, unmistakable. He looked at me once, just once, and I felt stripped bare, evaluated, measured, understood. Inside my kitchen, he set his coat on the chair, then wiped his glasses with a slow, methodical gesture. "Tell me," he said. I told him everything. Not with fire, not with rage, but with the calm of a man recounting a crime scene he'd already built in his mind. He asked only one question when I finished. "Do you want noise?" he murmured, "or silence?" "Silence," I said. His nod was tiny, but the weight of it was enormous. He opened a small notebook, the kind old men used to track debts that never reached paper trails. A list began forming: names, locations, connections, patterns. He worked like a surgeon operating on corruption itself, slicing through lies with steady hands. Every night he returned with updates. Never details, just confirmations. The boy is reckless. The father is untouchable by law. The security detail is loyal but predictable. The mistake they made was assuming no one would come this far. His voice held no anger, no personal stake, just purpose. Cold, practiced purpose. And I realized then, I hadn't called a man. I'd awakened a legacy. The night he moved, the air felt different, dense, expectant. I stayed behind. That was his rule. No overlapping worlds, he had murmured. You're a father. That's enough weight. The plan was simple in theory, impossible in practice, or for anyone who wasn't him. The boy was hosting a private gathering, a decadent, gilded display of wealth and arrogance. His father's mansion sat on the hill like a throne carved into the city's skyline, guarded by men with suits more expensive than their loyalty. But wealth blinds, power dulls instincts, and men born into privilege never expect the storm to come from below. What happened inside those walls I learned only through fragments, hinted details delivered later with the subtlety of confession. No bloodshed, no spectacle, just calculations executed with the precision of a man who'd lived too long in the shadows of old justice. The boy was confronted somewhere private, an office perhaps, a place far from witnesses, a place where legacy meets consequence. Whatever was said in that room broke him long before any physical action did. Uncle never touched him unless necessary. Words can be sharper when spoken by someone who understands how fear truly works. The father, he faced something colder, older, a truth he couldn't buy his way out of. A reminder that even empires answer to deeper loyalties. By dawn, both were undone. Not dead, not harmed beyond repair, but finished, ruined in ways that echo forever. When my uncle returned, he didn't smile, he didn't celebrate, he didn't offer assurance. He simply sat at my table, poured a small cup of coffee, and stared out the window like he was counting ghosts. "It's done," he said quietly. That was all. I nodded because I felt something crack inside me, relief mixed with grief, justice tangled with the weight of what we'd become to achieve it. Before he left, he placed a hand on my shoulder, a rare gesture, a silent bond. "She will heal," he murmured. "But remember, scars don't choose their shape. We do." Then he walked out the door and vanished back into whatever world he'd come from. My daughter woke a week later with steadier breathing, clearer eyes. She didn't ask what happened. She didn't want to know. She just held my hand, and I held hers, and in that quiet room we both understood something neither of us would say aloud. Justice doesn't always wear a badge. Sometimes it wears age, silence, and a gray coat from Sicily. The city kept moving. The news cycle churned. Names disappeared. Power shifted in ways only certain men notice. But at night, when the lights dim and the world quiets down, I hear his voice again, low, gravelly, resolute. I'm on my way. And I know that in the darkest corners of this life, family is still the only law that matters.